Good morning. For the first day in a long time. Don't feel like watching from the sidelines.
Welcome to the Core Conversations podcast by Ampelis, where our goal is to help you fuel, use, and rest your bodies in ways that unlock its innate abilities for physical and mental health. My name is Robbie Harmon, and I'll be your host. Welcome to the second episode of Core Conversations, where our whole goal is to help people fuel, use, and rest their bodies in ways that unlock its innate abilities for physical and mental health. My name is Robbie Harmon. I'll be the host. I'm the president of a company called Ampelis, and just excited to be here today with Tanna Fox, who we'll introduce in a second. Our topic today with Tanna is going to be all about energy. So I think we want to talk about energy.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Why don't we sometimes have enough of it? What can we do to get more of it? What does our metabolic health, energy production, what does that have to do with our mental health? And just really dive deep into your passion for this space. You help a lot of people. So Tanna Fox, if you did see our first episode, Tanna was on our first episode and you got to meet her a little bit, but Tanna is the owner of Live Right Nutrition. She's an international sports certified nutritionist. Mm-hmm. She is actively involved in coaching people, helping people with nutrition and knowing how to use their bodies in ways that really get the most out of what they have to give to the world. And so grateful for Tanna. She's been helping our company create content. She's created a 6-week series called Elevated Nutrition that has just been remarkable for people. And recently also had a passion for creating something for teenage girls.
So excited about that. Yeah.
That will happen this summer. So Tanna, mother of 4, her oldest daughter's graduating high school
tomorrow.
So how are you feeling about that? Are you ready for that?
I've kind of put it on the shelf for a minute. I'm not quite feeling old enough to have a daughter that's graduating, but I'm excited for her and all the things that are going to come her way. So
there's so much.
You too, right?
Yeah.
You're in the same boat.
Yes. Last week.
Here we are.
Ava's, your daughter's graduating, I think tomorrow as we sit here and record this, and Bree graduated last week. And
I know. It's crazy.
Ready to take on the world.
It'll be fun for them. I'm excited.
Which is so fun. I mean, coming into summer and thinking about that as well, there's so much going on. I know we were talking before we started recording today, and just everything you have going on, and sometimes it can feel exhausting. So maybe that's a good segue, even thinking about all that you have going.
That's a good point, Robbie.
Just how do let's start with just energy. Maybe just tell us, and maybe we start with getting into a little bit of your background, because I don't think we did enough of that on the last conversation. But just tell us how you got motivated and what motivated you, inspired you to devote so much of your life to this space of nutrition and helping people find more energy.
Gosh, thanks for asking. Because truthfully, it's kind of a very personal and almost like a sacred experience for me. I definitely feel like it's something that I'm supposed to be doing, for lack of better words, right? I just feel this calling, which therefore comes with an energy about it that is nonstop, that is quite exciting and exhilarating. So I feel like it's from above. If there's, again, for lack of better words, I feel like it's something that I am supposed to be in the field of, and therefore it allows me to see things that I probably wouldn't see, since I'm also trying to look at it through, again, if you will, divine eyes or something. Like, what is it that the world needs to actually feel better, to have more energy? How can I learn? How can I see? How can I teach better to make a difference? And so in that, I'm also trying to practice those things myself. I don't dare teach about anything that I haven't done myself, that I don't have personal experience with or seen multiple clients experience with. So it's fun to see how it started from this world of understanding the power of food, and then to getting into deeper science of understanding the gut microbiome and the connection to our brain. And then from there, understanding at a cellular level, the powerhouse of our metabolism and our metabolic functions, and then seeing how there's a mental space for it and an emotional space, and then of course a physical space. And so as I kind of go in this world of learning more and more and trying to teach and share more and more, it never ceases to amaze me how much energy comes from learning, practicing, living, right? Like over and over. It just seems to be like endless. And so I'm grateful that there's proof in it from that as well. So anyways, that's just a little bit of how I got started. And here I am 10 years later, just still so passionate, if not more, about this topic.
I love what you said. And maybe this is going to take us on an unexpected tangent that we didn't talk about beforehand, but you talked about how you felt like maybe it was like a divinely inspired direction for you to go and use some of your gifts and your time on the earth to go to this place. But you come to this topic, I think, and part of the reason you're able to influence people is because you've got such good energy around this. We're talking energy, but I think there's something that is powerful when you feel like you've connected to a divine purpose.
So true.
And then you can apply your time and talent and skills to pursuing that.
Channeling it.
I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, about like the role of some kind of spiritual purpose and aligning your life with that to give you energy.
I'm so glad you asked it, because I haven't thought about it, but as I take a second to think about that, I can't help but think of the times that I wasn't, right? Totally spiritually aligned. And so for me, it's a big contrast. And that's why I think I feel there's a huge, important role that needs to have in my life, because I felt what it meant to not have that role. And so it's taken some years and some practice and getting on my knees and understanding, what is it that I have, or for anyone for that matter, anyone that's listening, what is it that your gifts are that you can take and magnify and help make the world a better place, help people understand this important connection between us and the spiritual connection, this mental health connection that comes from a spiritual perspective. And so I think the contrast, it started having the contrast first, not knowing, and then now knowing and seeing how much better it really is, and how much consistency and reliability there is in finding and sticking to the source of truth, right? And that for me is really where the difference comes. And I can't help but want that for everyone. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what it feels like to be overweight. I know what it feels like to be tired. I know what it feels like to not really know your purpose. And so it's not me or us trying to be like someone else. It's us trying to find out who we are, what our gifts are, and run with those, right? And it will look different, but it's hard in a world where we look side to side and compare. We compare energy levels, we compare clothing sizes, we compare everything, and we can't help it. We're trying to kind of see where we fit in and navigate that. But I think the second we kind of let go and realize that we're on our own individual journeys with health and fitness and, spirituality and intellect, then you start to realize, oh, okay, I understand this a little bit easier. I'm strong here, I'm weak here. And trying to find a balance between the two is really where I've come to accept, like, okay, I might not be great at this, but I'm good at this. So let me lean into this even more. And as I lean in, that's when the abundance comes. I'm still really bad at a lot of other things, right? But the more that I lean into the good, the positive, the strengths, I'm never, ever, ever satisfied. What I'm trying to say is it never surprises me how much it's multiplied and the abundance comes.
And you've got a lot of energy to give to it. In fact, we probably ought to do another conversation about that at some point, like going deep on just that, fun. Like vision and purpose and aligning the gifts way you're using your time and your gifts resources. And how that contributes to your overall physical health. That would be a good conversation to have. I know there's some interesting research about that and trying to create congruence between purpose and vision and how you spend your time and how that creates confidence and self-assuredness. And it
very literally transforms the brain. Like they're showing in some of those brain scans, thicker, more resilient parts of the brain when you do have a keen sense towards a spiritual side of yourself and nature and all those things. But we could talk forever.
So let's save that one because we'll go deep on that one. Maybe another time.
That'd be fun.
So let's go into then this topic of energy.
Yeah.
And I want to start with the word metabolism. That's a word that we used at the intro and you used as you kind of teed this up as well. What is that? Tell us about, let's define that word first and then talk a little bit more about it.
It's interesting because as women especially, we think metabolism is something that you're just blessed with. Like, oh, you have a fast metabolism and that's why you can eat those cookies or whatever it is that the old kind of myths of metabolism were. But as I've studied more and really tried to understand what is it that sets metabolism apart from one person's from another person's, is that it actually is not a genetic trait that you inherit, but it's something very much that we are in control of. And that's why I love it. As we age, our metabolism does not slow down. We slow down. Our liver gets clogged, right? So when we understand that we're very much in control of our metabolism and the way that our cells are working, then you start to understand, Oh, it's not just how fast you digest food, but
Mm.
it's actually how well your cells are working inside your body and how well they're outputting and inputting from the food we take in, right? And so I think that's what I love about metabolism is it's something we're totally in control of. So that's one of the biggest things to understand.
That's very true because I mean, often we hear this idea of, oh, he has a fast metabolism
Yeah.
or she has a slow metabolism, and or we lament that we don't have a faster metabolism, and we kind of, I think we oversimplify that concept,
Totally.
that word, and just talk about it as if it like you said,
Yeah.
it's just how fast we digest food or burn calories,
Yeah.
and as you said, it's so much more than that. It's like how the cells are
It
functioning.
totally is. And there might be people that are born with a slower metabolic function in one area. That's true, right? Some might be have a faster, metabolic turnover. But again, the thing that I love about metabolism and understanding it is that we are in total control for the most part. I mean, in a matter of 2 months, you can shift your metabolism.
So it's not fixed.
It's not fixed. It's not static, right? It's something that we, with a few lifestyle changes, and honestly, I think it's about our perspective of how we look at food and movement that changes our metabolic functions more than anything right off the bat. Like, yes, we can get a to-do list. We'll talk about those, I'm sure, today. But first thing is just to understand that you're in charge of your metabolism. Like we as humans are the ones that are running the show by what we do and what we eat. It's not something that you just have to deal with because you were blessed with this or that.
Interesting. I
So-
love that. Yeah. Having more of a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset as it pertains to your metabolism. Is it appropriate? You mentioned in the tee up, the powerhouse of our cells and how that relates to, let's go there for a minute. But is it okay to say, if we maybe broadly define metabolism as our ability to produce energy at the cellular level?
Exactly.
So it's more than just digestion. It's more than how fast we burn calories. That's part of it.
Yeah.
Because that's where calories provide the food for the energy to be created. But talk about why you use that term, the powerhouse of the cells, and let's explore that for a minute. Because I think this will lay a foundation for then where we go with the topic.
It's so
more
true.
broadly.
And when you said that, of course, I started to, think, okay, how can we explain this so that it is helpful to understand? And that begins with understanding that inside our cells are mitochondria. Mitochondria is basically the little powerhouse, if you will, like you just said, for our energy output. The mitochondria is what determines how fast we absorb good, healthy food and use it for our benefit. And it also depends on how fast we get rid of unhealthy things. So there's anabolism and catabolism happening when you are talking about mitochondria and cell turnover. We want to get rid of old mitochondria, this old energy, but we also want to regenerate it. And so again, this lifestyle habits and patterns of learning that these metabolic functions are based off of our mitochondria strength is really the fundamental part of figuring out how to get a fast metabolism, right? Figuring out how to really harness the power that is inside of our bodies. And I think that's the coolest part, because when we start to understand that the mitochondria, this energy house that's inside our body, is based off of what we do, it's almost like you then you begin to see the capacity that we can have, right? Like versus just like checking off the boxes of I'm a healthy person. But when you understand that there's mitochondria or energy that we need to take care of and nurture and strength and provide a good environment for, you then realize how much more you're able to have and how you can increase your capacity again for more energy. So it kind of feels like it can be endless.
Yeah.
And I feel it. I've seen many people feel it. And I'm like, oh, and it really does boil down to how well are you caring for what you've been given, for what's already inside your body. It's already happening. So let's enhance that. And that's what I love about this mitochondria and the energy cells that are inside our own bodies.
I mean, it's almost cliche to say, as you're talking about that, it's cliche almost to say that knowledge is power.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
I mean, sincerely, as you said that, my mind went to when we operated an addiction recovery program.
Oh, yeah.
And we would do so much education about neuroplasticity and the way that our brains work and neurotransmitters. And understanding that was really empowering for people to feel like they understood their body well enough to know that there were levers they could pull that would change what was happening in their body.
Yeah.
And they could be maybe more mindful of what might be happening to their body when they weren't feeling great.
Totally.
And so I love that, because the combination of that with what you said about kind of recognizing that we're not stuck. Like we can do things to influence the way that our cells produce energy, which then power every part of our brain and our muscle growth and development and all of those things. So,
and it's funny because as you're saying that, yes, they power our brains, but then reciprocating backwards, our brains also power our mitochondria. Our movement powers our mitochondria.
Right.
So they work back and forth, which is the exciting part about it. So as you're
synergistic.
continuing to strengthen that, it will strengthen you. And that is where the increase comes back and forth. And it just starts to, it just keeps spiraling upward into this beautiful, limitless, if you will, right, bounds. But sometimes in order to be limitless, you have to put in place a few limits, right? And then you can really fly. I try to explain it like this. I hope this makes sense, but I'm like the laws of flight. Like when we're getting on an airplane, right? You have to follow the rules. I mean, as a passenger, I've got to buckle up and I've got to, keep all the rules and not bug people. But the pilot has to very exactly, precisely hit the right velocity at the right angle to hit the right lift. And then once he hits that law, the law of flight, he gets up high, he can go anywhere he wants. They could take us to Europe. They could take us to Disneyland. They can take us anywhere. But if those laws of flight, those rules, the truth about how to fly is not in place first, then you can't go anywhere. And I love thinking about how sometimes we feel like, oh, there's so many things that I have to do to take care of my health, but actually it's the ticket to set you to freedom, right? And that mitochondria is very literally what it looks like to have that freedom on a cellular level, because then you have more energy, you sleep better, you're able to, again, increase your capacity to help and connect with others. I mean, again, the list goes on and on. And so it's just a way to reframe how much capacity we really could have and how much more we can do with just a little bit of understanding. Like you said, just a tiny bit of learning and a little bit of practice with it too. It's okay to fail, right? It's okay to not do it perfectly, because then you kind of know like, oh, I'll try this again next time. So it's kind of fun.
I do. And I love how central this conversation is to so many things. I've been in healthcare industry for my whole career. And even now in the mental health space for 6+ years. And this whole idea of understanding the role of mitochondria and metabolic health, it feels like it's new for me. I know it's not new for science and people who've been in maybe deeper, but in terms of broadly speaking about our physical and mental health from that perspective, thinking about our metabolic health and how all these things that we deal with, whether it's chronic illness or chronic fatigue or mental health, might be related to the functioning of our mitochondria. It feels like
they totally are, Robbie. That's exactly what I think. It's newer too. I think they're understanding. I mean, I was just listening and studying a little bit, and I learned that there's over 100 specialties, like in the field of medicine and health. And as we are increasing in our dialed in specialties, we're actually getting unhealthier because we're forgetting that all of it, every realm of specialty and health division ties back to how well our cells and our metabolic functions are thriving or are not thriving, right? And so it's just that tie back to the core principle of understanding it is on a metabolic level, almost every disease, every state of inflammation, even insulin resistance, all of it comes back to a metabolic function. And I think we're just discovering that more and more as science gets better, and we're trying to get again to the core root of what's happening. Why are we getting sicker, right? Why is 50% of America pre-diabetic? Like what is happening? We're getting smarter technically, we're spending more money, but we're forgetting that inside the core of every human body, there still has to have a couple things function the right way in order to get healthier. So I love that.
And it's so intuitive. If you think about what you've just described,
it is.
Like if this is what the power source of our cells, and our cells make up our bodies and our brains and everything, how well are we fueling, using and resting them in order to really unlock them and have them function at a high level to produce energy, to power all of the different systems in our body? Like it makes sense that
totally it does.
There's, and I want to get into the next question will be about, so what role does nutrition specifically play in energy and metabolism and metabolic health? But I just finished listening to a presentation that Chris Palmer gave. I read a book of his last year called Brain Energy, and he's a psychiatrist at Harvard.
You gave me that book. Okay. I read it. I love it.
So it's so good. And so he makes the point that for coming from a psychiatry perspective, he started to explore this idea of, well, I'm seeing correlation, not causation initially, between all these different metabolic issues, diabetes, even Alzheimer's disease and obesity. and mental health issues. He says there's got to be something, because they're bidirectionally related. Somebody can get one first, and then they're much more likely to get the other.
Totally.
And so his area of exploration was, well, then there's got to be a common physiological pathway that's connecting all of these things, ranging from some cancers to fatigue to depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder, whatever. And his thesis now that he's out talking about and trying to help, and he's practicing in the way in his medical practice, is it's all metabolic health.
Yeah.
And we need to use tools like nutrition and sleep and other things to address all of these, related issues that we don't sometimes traditionally connect.
Totally. It's like nutrition 101.
Yeah.
Eat your fruits and vegetables, right? When it comes down to it, because what that study, those things that they're talking about, have so much more of an impact than I think we let ourselves understand. I think we're looking for the next greatest tip or trick or this next pill, right? Or whatever it is, it's going to be the thing that makes us healthy. But when you go back to this innate fundamental principle of actually the food on the earth grown by the sun is what will help our bodies that come out of the earth, very literally, right? If we're made of the dust of the earth, it's what makes them thrive. And so I think understanding that connection is really, for me, where I start to see clients excel at a faster rate. They're understanding, that, this plant is so much better than this bag of chips, right? I mean, and it's hard because, again, we're in the grocery store trying to navigate this. What do I buy for lunch? What do I have for dinner? So I understand that I feel bad. It's no one's fault. And that's the thing that I want people to understand. It's not your fault. If you feel like you're metabolically dysfunctioning, you probably are, but it's not your fault. And there's a way to fix it. So don't beat yourself up. Keep your head up, right? Keep your face in the sun. Very literally, there's a light component in there as well. And let's just start at the core root and work our way up to understanding that, yes, what we eat first and foremost will change that faster than anything. So I love that.
And it's like an oversimplified maybe analogy to illustrate what you're saying, but filling up your car with gas, you have an engine that powers your car. If you put good fuel in, it's going to go and function great. If you put water in that gas tank instead of gas that it was designed to use, it's going to shut down. Yeah. And so that's just, maybe that's, again, an overly simplified and
but I don't think we can
analogy.
talk about it enough.
Yeah.
I think we just need to get that into people's minds and help them realize that you don't need to run to the next specialist right away. I'm grateful for specialists. I'm grateful for the work they're doing, but maybe, just maybe, we could start with a few simple things, like you said. So I don't think you can oversimplify it. I mean, I always try to think of like, if you had to create, let's say you were having Sunday guests over, right? And you wanted to create a beautiful dinner for them. You would normally go to the grocery store and try to find the best ingredients. But let's pretend you had to make that Sunday dinner with only the things in the garbage can, right? And you were like, well, how am I going to get them the protein? How am I going to get them the fats or I want to have this garnish here and I want to get the color here, but you're only working with the things in the garbage can. I think that sometimes is what happens. You're like, we don't realize that when we don't put in foods that are fresh and grown by the sun and the light and all that kind of stuff, we're working with garbage. Our poor mitochondria, those cells inside are like, wait, what happened to the amino acids? What about these nutrients? Where's the vitamins and the minerals? I can't make anything out of this, let alone energy. And so again, just reframing right away, what is our cells working with? There's that Dr. Casey Means, who wrote that book, Energy. I think I shared this last time. I hope maybe I did.
I don't remember if you did.
I share the same things a lot. I teach a lot, but
repetition is good.
She says she goes to the farmers markets every week and she puts out all the food. And I try to do this too. Or when I go to the grocery store or I get my Walmart delivery, whatever it is, right? I'll open everything, put it on the counter, and I'll look and I'll take a visual inventory of like the pineapples and the apples and the berries and the cucumbers and the papayas that are coming in season now, and all the things like plums are starting to show up and cherries. And I'm like, oh, there's new stuff every season. So it's kind of exciting. And you very literally look at that food and realize that in the next 5 to 7 days, my mitochondria, my cells will be made up of what is on my table. So if you were to put on there a bag of chips, right? A soda, an energy drink.
Do I want to be a bag of chips?
Exactly. Yeah. And then your poor body is like, well, this bag of chips is made from all things that have no nutrient density, no vitamins, no minerals. So of course your cells are like lagging in energy. There's no mental strength. There's brain fog. You're not sleeping well. Your insulin's skyrocketing, which means your inflammation's raising. And then you're getting, more and more brain fog fog and all those things start to happen because our body has nothing to work with. So I love like just this idea, this visual that when you go to the grocery store, are we all realizing that what we're buying and what we're eating is our body next week, right?
Yeah.
It's just like mind blowing, and it makes you excited to go to the grocery store, right? I'm like, oh, let's go see what we can find today, right? Or something new. We should try to be eating 30 different plants a week. And it's easier than we think. I mean, if you were to open a salad, even if you went to wherever, you'd be like, oh, I bet within a salad that I eat, there's 5 or 7. But can we slowly increase that and start to see? And that is, again, the fastest way to just feel a little bit more of that energy, right? We go to look for a stimulant so often, but stimulants are not the answer. They're actually not providing energy. Like caffeine and things like that, those actually just block our tired receptors. They're making it so that we don't feel tired, yet they're not actually providing sustainable, lifelong, regenerative energy that helps fuel a really high quality capacity, right? I mean, I hope that makes sense, but it's so fun. Yeah.
I mean, so nutrition is essentially, I mean, it's foundational for this whole idea of metabolic health. It can impact chronic illness. It can impact mental illness. It can impact fatigue and energy levels. I love that visual with Casey Means. I'm curious your thoughts, because you also mentioned sunlight, and you mentioned, getting outside and moving, and all of those things impact it. Is there one that you feel like as you work with clients that is an easier starting point, or do they really need to think about simple ways of engaging in all of those behaviors? Like, I don't know if I don't think there's a right answer to that.
No, I think it's a good question though, because people will want to know. I think what I try to do is teach them what they all are. Right? Teach them that it is exposure to light. It is exposure to toxins. It's what we're putting in our mouth, and it's how much we're moving and all those kinds of things, how much we're outside. I think it's laying them all before them and being like, this is what will impact your metabolic function. Which one are you drawn to the most right now? Like, I know that even in my life, very busy life, I could improve my time outside, right? Always. And the more we do that, so I think it's an individual approach too. Like, you might be great at getting outside, like on your bike or out for a run. And you're like, for me, it maybe will be improving my sleep patterns, right? Or if your sleep patterns are great and your light exposure is fantastic, then it might be, something like, oh, I really want to work on resistance training. So I love that there's not going to be one that's going to have to stand out for everybody as an individual, but also, again, finding what is it that you might be drawn to. Like, as we're talking about this, someone might have never even thought about the concept of getting up, going outside, and letting your face hit the sun first thing in the morning. The more in tune we become with light and our own circadian rhythms, the better our metabolic functions will start to pick up and get a pattern and a rhythm to follow, and then they'll thrive in that pattern and rhythm. And so, to indirectly answer your question, it could be any one of them, but which one is it that you need the most?
That makes a ton of sense. And helping people figure that out and reflect and be self-aware.
Totally.
And then have enough knowledge they can experiment and start to try and be, again, self-aware enough as they're trying things to say, man, that's really impacting me.
Yeah.
In a important
have
way.
a relationship and kind of start out with, where am I at? What do I want to look for? What changes? How will I know it's working? And before they know it, they feel it. I can't tell you how many text messages we get, even just from the workshops we've been initiating in the last year or so. People are like, I'm only in week 5 and I feel different. And we haven't even gotten into the core of like strength training and resistance training, right? But they are feeling a difference by picking colorful foods, right? And trying to pick an apple or an orange over even a bar, right? Like, even the things that might come across like healthy, like this world's on this craze of like protein chips and protein bars or keto this, low, whatever it is, there's always going to be something. And it's kind of fun. To be honest, I'm like, oh, I love to see what people are innovative with. But you can never, ever replace the fundamental principles of food grown by the earth.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's the simplest part, and they notice a difference quickly. And so anyways, it's kind of fun.
I mean, maybe it's not too hard to imagine that God created
right?
this amazing fuel
figure.
that would help our bodies function the way that they were designed to function.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the part that I love the most about it. Right. Is I'm like, it's not like we have to go run out and recreate some incredible, I don't know, regime. You just look around, what's around you, what's growing, what's in season, and what is, again, abundant on the earth in every continent. Like, I love thinking about bananas. I'm like, bananas are found almost everywhere in every country, and bananas provide such a great amount of potassium, right? And the fiber and some of these minerals that we all need. And I'm like, oh, they're just right before us. Everybody gets them, right? So anyways, it's kind of just some fun ways to reframe how we see our energy and what source of energy or what sources are providing energy for us. So,
And, as people start to make, and you get to see this, I mean, what a cool thing you get to
I'm
have
so
spent
grateful for it.
time on working with people and helping them make changes. Because as people, regardless of where they start or where they started in terms of their health and energy level, as they start to make changes, like there's something too just with self-confidence when you feel like you're
Totally.
making progress
So
at
true,
something and
Robbie.
taking little actions. But I would love to hear your reflections if you can think of any success stories. We want to call it every time we have these conversations a little by little
Oh,
success story. But
yeah.
can you think of anybody who's really had success with some of these ideas and principles and made a profound change in their life?
So many. It's more just which one do I pick to share. Some of the most drastic ones have been, I mean, this one was probably a few years ago, but there was a sweet client of mine that was trying to get pregnant, right? Suffering from acne at the same time, emotional instability, feeling like she couldn't get out of depression. Yet she was on a very strict caloric regimen, making sure she was getting this many calories and trying to even focus on just like not overdoing it and really focusing on having the right quantity of energy, if you will, the caloric energy, and just making sure we're staying in that, also exercising a ton, but just not feeling the regenerative powers that she really frankly needed it. And so I was like, let go of the meal plan for just a minute. Take the next 4 weeks and just look at everything you eat. Does it come out of a box or does it come out of the earth? And there's a difference. We can get into this in another podcast too. There's a difference between ultra processed and processed foods, right? Some of the things that come out of a box are still healthy for you, like yogurts or maybe some deli meats, and those things have to be processed. Like frankly, our eggs come out of a box, if you will, right? So sometimes it's just, again, a little bit of education. But in that 4 to 6 weeks, it was so incredible to watch, very literally, her energy just, that was the first thing that came back. Her depression subsided very quickly. And she was like, oh, I actually am getting out of bed today and I can play with my 5-year-old son. Right. And I was like, okay, that's great. Keep going. Right. And I had a conversation with my husband today, which I was like, oh, bless your heart. Like things that we take for granted probably, and then as you kept going and I'm like, okay, now spend an hour in the sun today, whatever you do, if it's a walk or if you take your son outside. Then it started to shift and she started to sleep better because when we were exposed to light in the morning, our melatonin production at night increases. So little things like that. And then the last, because it was the hardest for her, was to trust that fruits and vegetables don't need to be managed on a caloric basis or a glucose or fructose intake, right? But that they are to very well, to understand very well how they regenerate your cells. Like your body is dying inside because metabolically there's nothing sustaining it. With the low calorie syrups and the sugar-free treat that you're trying to have at night to stay under the calories, it really literally was quite killing her metabolic. I mean, it was her metabolic functions. And so that was kind of those last 5-6 weeks. And then to be honest, it was so cool. I'll get emotional, but probably 5 months after that, she's like, I'm pregnant. She'd been struggling with infertility and we did not even do anything drastic, right? There was no worry of things. And that's an extreme case. That was one that was really exciting, but there's also so many that fall along those same lines of that. And I was so grateful for the truth. Like it wasn't anything that I did. It wasn't anything like this beautiful magic nutrition, recipe or something that we had to create. It was just the truth of the way the earth works in conjunction with how your body works. And combining those two synergistically literally had her whole life turn around. She started to flourish. And there's small scales of that along the way, right? Like even again, just starting to understand like, oh, I cannot be afraid of calories and sugar intake from fruit and things like that, and really just learn to see them in a new way. It's so fun to see people be like, oh, I didn't even mean to, but I lost 5 pounds, right? Just switching and increasing, very literally more mitochondria through some exercise and having an apple or an orange a day, right? Little simple things like that. So it happens quite a bit. And frankly, it might be part of the reason I'm so addicted to this line of work, because I see it every single minute, even with people in my own community, like friends or neighbors or family or things like that. It's all around us if we look for it. So I'm like, oh, who else just needs to hear it, right? Again, it's not proprietary. It's not anything special that I've come up with or anybody else, but it's just the truth. It's just how our bodies work.
I love a couple things you said. One is that it wasn't some like breakthrough idea about this new recipe or this new, dramatic diet. It was, in this case, this example you gave, it was just doing some things that were very natural and easy to do. It was getting outside, it was moving, it was eating a little bit more, fruits and vegetables. But little by little, those little changes again started to power power her metabolic health and drive energy levels that increased. Maybe it improved her skin,
Oh,
helped her
everything.
reproductive functions. I mean, that's what will happen. That's what I love about this idea of the mitochondrial health and metabolic health is literally it connects all of our different body systems, and we need to take care of it. And the way we do that is all the things you've been talking about. I love that.
Yeah. It's pretty fascinating.
Can we talk about, because I know you've had a soft spot in your heart for helping young people that are launching into the world, whether they're going out and doing missionary work or other things that they do that sometimes can just create stress and they're hard. And you've had a passion for trying to help some of them, but I would love specifically to talk about the role of metabolic health and our metabolism and our energy and nutrition and mental health for a second.
Yes. Oh,
can you draw, what is the connection between this topic and mental health?
1,000%. There is a big connection between our gut and our brain, right? We have this gut-brain axis that frankly in the youth, because they didn't grow up on the farms like our grandparents did, right? And they weren't exposed to the same whole foods that our ancestors were, even our parents, right? Like my mom was born in the Philippines. She totally grew up from the age of 0 to 10 on a totally different diet than my 10-year-old is growing up on, right? And again, it's not anyone's fault. It's just change. And so as I think about why I have such a soft spot in my heart is because they don't always know. They don't always realize, I mean, I don't know, like how good it was once, right? Like to walk out into the garden of your grandpa's house and to like grab a fresh raspberry or whatever it is, depending on where they come from. But I think most importantly, it's because I also see the potential of these young kids. They're going to be smarter than us. They have to be, right? They're the next ones that are going to be sitting here in 10 years trying to educate the world on how to become better and faster and smarter and more innovative and truthfully more spiritual. So my heart wants to empower them even more than I feel like I've been able to be exposed to education, things like that. And when they understand that the way they treat their bodies and the routines of their daily living will enhance that, then it's almost like it just unlocks this door to even more potential than that's already placed on them. You know, again, I feel bad because they have a lot of pressure. They have way more distractions than we ever had with phones, right? They're being exposed to a lot more of that blue light at night because we're not following the rhythms of the sun, technology, distractions. I mean, things like that are happening. But I think understanding, my big passion too, as a gut health specialist, is also to help them realize that what we eat will very literally affect their brain. There's that gut-brain axis. We've talked about it before. We'll probably keep talking about it multiple times every time we're on. It's because it really is. It's one of the most powerful ways to understand that the food you eat affects your mood in the happy ways, but also in the negative ways. So if someone that's in their early 20s, in their late teens, even some of the younger teenagers are feeling insecure, are feeling confused, are feeling tired, it's an opportunity to just be like, hey, let me just tell you, did you know that if you actually went to bed a little bit earlier, right? And even if you don't want to go to bed earlier, that's fine, but prioritize sleep. Like if I sometimes don't like to wake my kids up. I know that because I want them to sleep. And everyone's like, wait, shouldn't they get up? It's 11 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, their brains are growing when they sleep. Human growth hormone comes out when they sleep. They burn fat when they sleep. Everything regenerates when they sleep. So I'm like, just let them sleep, right? But I've seen it too as kids or people that suffer from some of that depression or mood swings that come, the second you can fortify their gut, because there's these little messengers inside their gut microbiome that are like, oh, this food is helpful and restorative. Let me tell my brain what to do better. But if the food we're eating is breaking down or blocking nutrient absorption, then of course their brain's not going to know what to do or how to navigate the situations. Right. And so it's fascinating to me that we don't talk about it more, actually. I'm like, how is this not in every single high school health nutrition class, let alone our medical schools and our specialty schools, that everything ties back to metabolic health, and metabolic health is directly related to nutrition. And so I think just any chance I get to bear my testimony about good food to a kid or to be a witness of like, yes, movement, sleep, and food makes all the difference, I want to take it. And mostly just, again, because I see that their potential is, and I see the stress they have to carry, and I just want to lighten their burden. And if you can lighten the burden with just a little bit of empowering tools, it will make a big difference in their life. And I mean, I've seen it from people that are serving, across the country, trying to do service missions and share the things that they believe, and how much the food choices that they make impact their own happiness and their own ability to
the resilience, the ability to deal with stress and discouragement, all those things. I mean,
exactly.
Quite literally, if we're not powering our brain to have the right neurotransmitters and different hormones releasing and functioning like we become less resilient. We become more emotionally reactive. There's some, we'll get into this. We got to go deep on that one too. I can't remember if it was you that said in our last conversation that some massive percentage of our serotonin is created in our
90%.
gut. Yeah.
Can you believe it? And serotonin, for those of us that don't know, is that feel-good hormone that just makes you happy.
Yeah.
It just makes us feel like everything's going to be okay, even if it might not be okay. That's the thing, is life will never be perfect. We're always going to have trials, but how we view them is really what matters. And so when we use foods like probiotics and have the right vitamins and minerals, and we create a gut-brain connection that is fortified and that is thick with this mucosal layer, which is kind of a gross visual, I know, but I'm like, it's true. We want to mind our mucus and like understand how important that is. Then we start to see how much stronger your brain is. And then when your brain feels strong and your gut feels strong, your body becomes strong. And our body is really what makes us move and do and get up and sleep and reach out and lift, people where we can stand. And that's why I love it, because they all eventually come back to one another, but it does start with, for sure, the things we put in our mouth and, how much sleep we're getting. And are we understanding that is in our control versus something, rather than just standing there and being bombarded with things? Do we take a minute to get out of our schedules and be the one in charge? I don't know if I'm saying that right, but like sometimes we think, I've got to go to class, or I've got to do this, or this assignment's due. We let that dictate what we think we need to be doing. Where if you just took a minute and reversed the role and been like, well, I know this is due, so I'm going to first do this and this and this, and then I'll do better on my test, right? So, or whatever it is they're trying to deal with. Yeah. I just think that we can take more ownership of that if they have the right vision. Right? The right tools.
That is one of the takeaways I hope people walk away from listening to this conversation, is that if you or a family member, somebody is dealing with some of these emotional challenges, at least explore this area of nutrition and movement as an option to try to create more hopefulness and more energy and overcome whether it's crippling anxiety or depression. There's a role for all the medicinal stuff too, but at least explore this as a pathway to help. Yeah. Because I think it can help. I mean, I do think of these young people that are serving missions and going off to college and other things, and just giving them the tools that they need to deal with.
It's hard out there. It is hard. I mean, it's hard for us as adults, right? In our middle age. And I'm like, man, and I have a lot of tools. Yeah. I know where to go. I know I have some maturity with some years. And my heart goes out to these kids, because I'm like, you can do it. Yeah. You can do it. Don't let the world take over you. You take over the world, right? Like you take over and you be in charge of the things that you want to accomplish. And so sometimes it's easier said than done. So
maybe in a future conversation, I would love to talk about different diets, because sometimes that can be overwhelming, and I don't want to go there now because we can take another hour on that topic. But I've read things about Mediterranean diet and improving depression and anxiety symptoms. I've read things about the ketogenic diet doing the same, and
or the carnivore diet.
Yeah, I don't know if you have some kind of just little takeaway for people as they think about being overwhelmed by that. Let's go there deeply in another time. But do you have any kind of high level thoughts on that topic?
It's funny because I do love to teach this in the nutrition classes. Every diet works, but every diet will also eventually fail. So it's not about following this rigid diet of I only eat the Mediterranean foods, or I only eat plant-based foods, or I only eat meat, right? And the ketogenic, I go really low on carb. What the thing that all those diets have in common when they have the success from each of those is the part that's tied to the fruits and vegetables, to the plants, to the whole food part of that, right? So whether it is just the meats, when it's a real amino acid source that's rich from the earth, that lives under the sun, right? Or whether it's the Mediterranean diet and the olives that are grown off of the trees, or the plant-based diet that is rich in all of the different amino acids from plants and those compounds and those phytonutrients and those vitamins and those minerals, the success rate from each of those comes because of what comes from the earth, not necessarily in the rigid way you follow that plan. And so a quick overtake on just like why I think some of them work for others and some of them don't work is because wherever you're adapting this plant-based, light-driven food source is what's bringing the success. Yeah. And it might vary. Like my brother, bless his cute heart, he was a vegan for, I don't know, Matt, if you're listening, how many years were you vegan for? Maybe 2 or 3 years. And now he loves meat. And he's like, oh yeah, I learned so much from that. And now I'm adding to that, right? I'm adding to how I can take plants as like a really great nutrient source, dense of carbohydrates and things like that. But I'm now going to add some better amino acid choices to make a faster turnover for my cells, for protein synthesis to regenerate and to really see lean muscle mass come on. So I love this building. So whatever journey you're on, if you're drawn to a plant-based right now, soak up every good thing you can from the plant-based diet and then just see, are you ready for something different? And maybe keep adding to it versus feeling like you're hopping from one diet to another, because again, they probably will all work to some degree. And eventually some of them will all stop working, because it comes back to this source of, at the core of it, what is whole and real and regenerating our mitochondria to give us more and more energy on a good inside level. So
it seems to me, because we sounds like your brother. We went as a family. We were mostly plant-based for probably 7 years or something.
Yeah, I think you mentioned.
And now we've introduced more meat and stuff. But the thing that I've appreciated was what you said: more plants is better, less sugar is better,
always.
And the theme across all of it, though, even as we've reintroduced meat, has been be intentional about what it is.
Yes.
Like the quality of the fruits and vegetables, the quality of the meat. Where did you get it?
So good.
That actually matters a lot.
Totally.
In all these diets.
It does. And again, if you're someone that's worried about, you want to be plant focused, right? And eat that, you can also add in meat in a sparing portion, right? It doesn't mean that now everything has to be meat, right? Like you said, it can be a plant-based with some add-ons, right? Some benefits, kind of like when you go to, I don't know, like Cafe Rio, you're like, well, I'm going to add guacamole, or I'm going to hold the chips, or whatever it is you want to add. Like, you can customize it. A la carte, exactly. And I think that's the beauty about food. So what
role, because I'm really proud of the work that you have helped us do, and the work that others on our team have done in creating this new product, this Core 7 product. And again, I don't want this to come across as a commercial, but I'm really proud of that work, because I do think it's been work to fill a gap that exists in terms of creating a high quality, whole food based, all-in-one supplement that's easy to use. Maybe just a word on that, on what role does supplementation play for people in terms of metabolic health? Because can you get everything you need through food? Can you get most of what you need through food? What's the relationship between how I should think about supplements and food sources?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I love that question, because it's like, and I'm also like, love learning about supplements, because I also realize that not all of us are going to eat perfectly every day, right? If we could stay home and cook our wonderful breakfast with the colorful fruits and vegetables, that would be great. But we all have lives. We all are driving carpools and working and trying to figure out schedules. And, it's as full as life. Life is as full as we make it. And that's okay too. And so there are ways to try to adapt to certain circumstances. Some weeks will be busier and some won't be. Like, for example, when I travel, I rely on my supplements like crazy, even down to the fiber that I take, right? And to the B complex vitamins that I make sure I have to have. If I don't have enough vitamin C from strawberries or oranges, I'm making sure that I take a vitamin C when I travel. So I love this idea of understanding that supplements do have a place also. There's high quality and there's low quality supplements. I think that one of the coolest things about Ampelis and what we've been working on is, I think the most important thing to understand is that this was not created as just like a side venture. Like, oh, let's just do this.
Let's create a supplement business.
Yeah, exactly. That was the last thing that I think anyone was thinking that we were going to do, but that it was mostly created out of necessity and out of ease. Like we talked about how hard it is. Like, we want to make it easier. We want to make it streamlined and efficient, but really effective. And so when it comes to trying to do that, often to eat right, you have to have a little bit more discipline, a little bit more planning, right? In the beginning stages until you feel and catch that energy. And sometimes when you have a really busy work schedule, or kids that are a little bit more demanding, or family matters, or financial matters, or whatever it is, sometimes it's not always feasible. So to understand that we can use these outside supplements to help is okay. And I think it's encouraged now, especially as food quality is kind of declining more and more. Like, I think I mentioned this too, but magnesium ones that sticks out because it's so effective. Yep. Our magnesium in our food is 75% lower, right? And it's because the soil is depleted, and it's, we're trying to learn better, right? We're not going to get into any of those kind of issues, but I do think it's so cool to see that supplements make a difference. And this product is really just something that evolved because there was nothing like it. And as we went to try to find, okay, well, let's make sure we get the highest quality, B complex vitamins. Oh, what's really great for helping with mood? Saffron's so great. What's the best quality of that? It was kind of like this compilation, understanding that these make a difference. So let's add them and watch it kind of start to work for itself. Then when you feel the effects of that, you're more inclined to be like, oh, okay, well, I will start to make a few healthier food choices, because sometimes we do just need that push of results and momentum before we take even more action.
Yeah.
So
It can kind of be a catalyst.
totally, it can
ways.
be. Yeah, yeah. And so I have no problems finding the best of the best supplements, because it makes a difference.
We had a Lon Henderson, who's
Oh,
our CEO.
yes.
Lon had a nutritionist call him. She works at university with student athletes and also has private clients, but she had somebody that was leaving the country for a period of
Oh.
time. And she called because she knew about this and had seen
Yeah.
kind of the research, and just said, is there any way I can get some of that product? I know you haven't formally launched yet,
Yeah.
but is there a way I can get some of it to send with her for the summer? She
Yes.
goes to Mongolia because she needs to fill the gaps that she's not
So
going to
true.
get through food. And same thing when Bree, my daughter, left on this trip
Yeah.
for a couple weeks. I gave her a little stash of, you know,
Mhm.
this, just because it gives me more confidence. I think she'll have better energy. I think
Oh,
she'll be more
1000%.
sensitive to like just social dynamics and spiritual experiences that I hope she
Mhm.
has on this trip that she's on. And
You're
it
so
matters.
right.
Like,
It
it's all
matters.
connected.
It does. And I think we forget that it's connected. When you get stuck in the rut of, I'm tired, and we kind of focus inward a little bit more
Yeah.
because we're not replenishing our sources.
Yeah.
And so it's a daily thing, right? Every 24 hours, we have a cycle. We've got to replenish every 24 hours. Find the sun in that day, find the nutrients in that day, find the movement in that day, and then we do it again tomorrow. But I think that's how it works. And the more we expose ourselves to these patterns and to these nutrients and all that kind of stuff, the patterns accelerate, right?
Yeah.
And that's when the energy, back all at the beginning of what we're talking about, how do we get more energy? It accelerates as there is consistency and high quality. And again, just this awareness of like, oh, we can do so much more without having to go buy the latest and greatest. So
Yeah.
anyways, it's
I
so
love
fun.
it.
I
This
do
is,
too.
I feel like we could talk for hours
I
on
know.
any one of these areas. We could
Yeah,
go deep on for
yeah.
a long time. And
I
there's so
know.
much good to talk about. I would love to check on just if you have any small, simple, actionable takeaways. We'll call it ideas in action is what we want to call it. But what's one simple recommendation you would make to people who are listening to this podcast that can help them improve their energy and metabolic health?
Oh, that's so good. This morning I was thinking, okay, what are some takeaways, these small steps? What will people really, really see a difference with? It's kind of what I was hoping. There's lots. We could talk again 10 more minutes about it. But if I had to pick one today, for some reason, I am drawn to the fact that this movement is way more critical. So if I could, I would encourage everyone, and myself even, it's a good reminder for me too, like we're not all perfect, but to get out and walk a little bit more than we think, right? I think we forget that walking is our body's glucose disposal. Walking is what allows our energy. Muscle contraction is medicine for our metabolic systems. I think that's one thing that we really want to remember. And so if you're feeling today a little sluggish, right, or a little tired, you want to do one small thing, I would say move. I would say move those muscles, move your body, let the glucose disposal happen, let your mitochondria kind of like get a little freshen up, let them shake off a little, keep moving. And that in and of itself, just for today, and if you do it tomorrow and the next day, you'll see a significant difference. There was a study that was so fun that, again, came across my desk just this morning about, they only took 10 people. It was a small little study, but I still love these because I think there's proof in them. But they took some clients that were desk workers and they gave them those standing treadmills, right? So even if you have a hard time getting outside, they had them walk for 2 hours in an 8-hour day. And over the course of, I can't remember exactly how many weeks, but I remember it being less than a month, there was on average 2 pounds of weight loss just from a couple hours of walking. So maybe today, there'll be a different one tomorrow or a different one next time, but maybe today, just remember that movement is medicine for our metabolic systems. And so if we're stuck in a rut or we're not, getting out like we want to, just find a simple way. Even if you just stand there and lift your calves at the table, or walk is the best. Walk before a meal, walk after. I mean, we can get pretty specific, but to keep it simple, I think movement would be one of the easiest ways to just start to change your metabolic functions.
Find something that works.
Yep.
Don't let it overwhelm you.
Exactly.
Don't let it be a new routine that is so hard to integrate into your life. Just find a way to move.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
So
Okay,
good
Tanna,
luck, everybody.
You are the best. I look forward to having more of these
I'm so
conversations
grateful for
because,
these.
again, I think we could go a lot of places and you've got so much to share.
Oh, no.
And you're
Well,
so
thanks for the
capable at it. So
opportunity.
thank you for doing
So
this.
great.
And hope that everybody will join us again for another conversation.
So many more good things to come.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here, and we look forward
thanks,
to
Robbie.
more in the future.
Okay. See ya.
morning for the first day in a long time. Don't feel like watching from the sidelines. Yeah, I'm waking with the sunrise. Get a taste of the daylight.